Welcome back. Today we are going to take a look at this book. This is the Encyclopedia of American Antiques, and fortunately for us, it is chock full of pictures. So what we're going to take a look at today are items that I think you are likely to find when you go out thrifting, yard sailing, or just passing by dumpsters or bits of furniture left out by the road on a Saturday night. So, when we get back, So how about we start off with an interesting story. This is a Brewster chair, one of the first pieces of furniture made in the United States by Europeans. This is a 17th century piece, and there are about a half a dozen of these in existence that can be documented from this period. The reason this is an interesting piece is about 30 or 40 years ago, a guy with no particular skill set went out and made one of these. Fooled everyone. It ended up in a museum before he eventually blew the whistle and said, "No, I made it." And fortunately, he had bits of wood from the chair he made. He took pictures, etc. Otherwise, it's not likely they would have believed him. So, yeah, the subject of a pretty legendary fake in the world of American furniture. A piece like this is a 17th century turned leg stool. Pieces like this are pieces you can still find from time to time, especially right on the East Coast in New England and going down about as far south as Virginia, the Carolinas. They can be found. 17th century furniture. Ooh. And we've talked about this. This is a gate leg table, another of the type of pieces from the 17th and very early 18th century you can still find today, particularly in New England. If you ever find a piece like this, unless you know for sure it's not a serious antique, don't do anything to it until you get an expert to look at it. Because, yeah, pieces like this are still coming out of barns, attics, and basements, particularly in the New England area. Now, I'm showing you this picture because we discussed Victorian rooms before. We're going to get in as close as we can. I'm sorry this is in black and white, but unfortunately the whole book is. But notice the busy pattern on the rug, the junk everywhere. This is a room where you can't put down a cup of tea without knocking over a tchotchke. Look at this. Notice one table in the middle of the room, the rest of the furniture around the perimeter, although we have a couple of chairs pulled up to the table. They did that when they were working at the table. But notice there are no side tables, no coffee tables. The only tables are these little curio stands, and you see them everywhere. This is actually what a Victorian room would look like. Now, mind you, it's a pretty sparsely furnished Victorian room because they would have wanted a lot more draperies and frilly gewgaws on everything. But this is much more along the lines of what a real Victorian room would have looked like. The Victorians did not have coffee tables. They did not have end tables. They had chairs everywhere and junk on every possible surface. Oh, and one more piece, because I can't resist this one. This is one of my favorite, no, it's my favorite, my single favorite piece of Victorian furniture is this bed. Not a bed like this, but this particular bed. It's in a museum in New York, and this is a John Henry Belcher piece. Now, if you look at this, you can see the curves. Belcher pioneered a technique for laminating thin, like, slices of wood. He would just laminate them, glue them together, steam them to get these curves, and then carve into them. Magnificent work. It's a little sort of fussy for my taste in general, but the black and white photo doesn't do this justice. The grain of the wood is amazing. And mind you, he only needed a wafer-thin sliver of this expensive, beautifully grained wood because it was laminated like plywood, so only the outer surface needed to have this gorgeous grain. It was a way to cut costs on top of getting this wonderful design. In person, the piece is magnificent, but this is, in my opinion, the height of what really fine Victorian furniture was. All right, we've talked about these a lot before. These are our Windsor chairs. These are pieces dating back to the 17th century. Most of them that you would see today are likely to be 18th, 19th century pieces. You can still get some of these that are quite old. They're very beautiful. They've been with us for centuries. They're going to be with us for more centuries to come. These are the sorts of pieces you can still find today. You can find them at yard sales, flea markets, antique stores. Again, as I've said before, if you ever come across a nice Windsor chair, make sure you know for a fact how old it is before you do anything like repair it or refinish it, because some of these are in fact quite old and you don't want to muck with a serious antique. Nevertheless, keep your eye out for them. They are there. They're available on the market. And if you want a piece of 18th century furniture, like the stools and the gate leg tables we looked at earlier, this is where you're going to want to look. These chairs are Queen Anne, so we're looking at 18th century. They can still be found. Chairs like these are often found at estate sales and auctions. Valuable? Can you find them today? Absolutely. Can you find them for good prices? Oh, yes. And remember, pieces like this absolutely have a resale market. People will have them shipped across the country. So you don't even have to worry about it. You find a piece like this, you list it on eBay, someone from California may be buying it, and they may be more than happy to pay the cost of shipping it out. Okay, this piece here is very similar to a chair I recently saw at Bedford Antiques. I mentioned it in a video, showed you the film of it. And you know, we're talking about a very old piece, late 18th, early 19th century. You can tell from this style on the arms. Can you find them? Yes, as a matter of fact, there is a chair in a very similar style that is literally right down the road from me in an antique store at a very reasonable price, just waiting to be purchased. So, can you find them? Oh, yes. Now, when we start looking at chairs like this, we are looking at Victorian pieces. We can easily tell that this is an earlier piece, this one a little later. I see these all the time, and I will see pieces like this one, later Victorian, for as little as $20 or $25. These chairs usually came originally in sets of 6 or 8 with an armchair and a table and whatever. You saw the Victorian furniture room, so you saw they had large numbers of chairs. They would not have been dining chairs, as we tend to think when we see a set of 8 matched chairs today. They would have been living room chairs. We can still get them. In my area, they are going for, well, dirt cheap. As I say, $20, $25. You couldn't even buy a folding aluminum lawn chair for that price these days. So, can you get them? My goodness, yes. So, we are switching back to the Ladies' Home Journal decorating book for an opportunity to take a look at some of the pieces we have just seen in modern settings. In other words, what would you do if you found one of these great old chairs or one of these great old tables? Where would you put them? How would you use them? And we have a lot of very interesting pictures in this book, because the other, of course, is an encyclopedia and isn't designed to show the pieces in use, whereas this book is. So, yeah, we are looking at early 19th century furniture. This is Empire. So, early 19th century. And here we go with another early 19th century piece, and shown with a modern lamp on it, just so that you can see that those pieces can still easily be put to use today. Here we have some modern repros of early furniture. This is early 19th century pieces. Again, showing those pieces in a modern setting, what they would look like in a home today. This is another excellent example, because what we're looking at here is very early 19th century furniture. In all likelihood, these are modern repros, but as you can see, we have an Empire-style chest of drawers, the Windsor chairs, a table, a traditional corner cabinet, and this is a modern dining room. It's a modern dining room in what I would call, the American country style, although, quite frankly, the furniture is elegant. And you don't usually see elegant pieces in American country, but it's pieces that can make a nice crossover. So, yes, absolutely, we can use those old pieces today. This is late 18th century furniture. And, well, it's styled as late 18th century furniture, a late 18th century room, probably created with modern furniture, modern wallpaper, but very authentic looking, because they did use these beautiful, vividly colored mural wallpapers in the 18th century. If you go to the White House, you will see many of these papers that have been restored to what they originally looked like in the late 18th century. In fact, if you told me that was a White House room, I know it isn't, but if you told me it was, I wouldn't really bat an eyelash, because these pieces are still being made and recreated today. So obviously, we can use beautiful old pieces like this in relatively modern settings. They fit in, they work, they're functional. We can use them in our modern lives, which is another advantage in picking up gorgeous old furniture when you can find it on the cheap, because, oh yeah, you can just stick it in a room. And speaking of sticking it in a room, what we have here is a modern room with an Empire sofa. I wish we could see more of that sofa because it's a beautiful Empire piece. Everything else here is modern. The stove is obviously a modern repro of an older piece, but this is a style of chair that you absolutely did not see in the early 18th or early 19th century. Same with the table, same with the coffee table. But this piece right here, that is early 1800s. So you can drop an antique piece in a modern or contemporary setting, and you can make it work. Obviously, they have. This is a very attractive room. Can't say I'm crazy about the strange green stuff all over here. I prefer my climbing plants to stay in other places rather than, crawling across the floor. It's like you want to feed it and call it Audrey. So, yeah, gives me the creeps. But other than that, this is a perfect example of a modern room with an antique piece in it. Oh, and by the way, I'm quite certain that is a genuine antique because they were not reproducing Empire pieces back in the 1950s. Okay, we're going to take a look at a couple of other situations where we have antique furniture being used in modern settings. This, again, at this point, we are probably looking at reproduction furniture. We have the canopy bed. By the way, beds like this were made in the southern United States, and they would have had a canopy and probably mosquito netting surrounding the bed. And these thin posts with headboards and footboards that were either very low or detachable meant the bed could be moved out into the center of the room in the summer to catch the breeze from all angles. So definitely southern furniture. And furniture, in fact, did have specific characteristics that were more popular in the southern United States, keeping in mind that a piece like this, which would have been very early 19th century at latest, southern United States would have been the East Coast only, but there were styles that were distinctly southern, styles that were distinctly New England. But in general, good use of antique furniture in a modern setting. Same with this, a very Duncan Fife-looking dining room. Obviously modern, but could that room have been something you would see in maybe 1810? Yes, absolutely. Actually, probably 1790s, looking at the tilt-top table over there. Yes, you can indeed use antique furniture in modern settings, and as we just saw, you can even just drop a single antique piece in a modern room just to give it your own style. So that's what I have for you today. We are going to briefly mention the giveaways over on the Sumi's Angels Facebook page. Remember, go over, sign up for the giveaways, stick around for the companionship because the ladies are wonderful over there. Oh, and there are gentlemen over there as well. Wonderful people, very talented, very creative, very friendly. And we are going to take a look at a happy little slideshow on the way out. So, Stick around. This evening we will have another Just Chatting video, and we will see you all again next weekend for the thrifting videos. Meantime, have a wonderful day.